At the shore of Egghead, the Pacifista were demolishing Marine battleships one by one. The Marines struggled to fight back as the Pacifista blocked their cannon fire with bubble shields. Lower-ranking officers panicked, never expecting to witness the Special Science Group's power in this way. The Pacifista then unleashed laser beams, destroying their ship. Vice Admiral Bluegrass expressed frustration, saying she couldn't fully engage because attacking the Pacifista would only harm their own forces. Vice Admiral Hound remarked that it would be unprecedented, but wondered if they could temporarily call off the Buster Call. Vice Admiral Guillotine explained that Vegapunk had given the pirate Bonnie the authority to control the Pacifista, making it impossible to stop them. He declared Vegapunk a traitor and urged the Marines to focus on regaining control of the Pacifista. Vice Admiral Doberman shouted that this meant targeting Jewelry Bonnie and ordered all available Vice Admirals to abandon their posts and hunt her down immediately. He noted that her escape route from the center of the Fabrio phase would lead her to the northeast coast and insisted they eliminate her. Vice Admiral Tosa was already pursuing Bonnie's group. He informed Doberman that he was closing in on them and promised to capture them. As Tosa approached, he coated his fingers in hockey, boasting that his 10-barrel finger gun could tear through armor. He leaped toward Bonnie with his Tosa Crunch attack, catching the attention of both her and Frankie. Suddenly, Tosa sensed something, but before he could react, a massive axe slammed down, smashing him into the ground. Bonnie was stunned by what she saw, while Frankie wondered why there were giants on the island and if they were enemies too. Brogy laughed and asked who they were, saying he and his crew had checked the bounty posters to identify new members, but none of them seemed familiar. He inquired if they were researchers. They didn't recognize Frankie because his wanted poster was outdated. Dory stated that they had come for the straw hats. Frankie declared that Luffy was his captain and asked if they held a grudge against him. Brogy clarified that they had no ill feelings, only gratitude toward Luffy. Dory added that they were warriors from Elbaf and promised to protect Frankie's group if they were Luffy's friends. Upon learning they were allies, Bonnie pleaded with them to help Luffy, Sanji, and Vegapunk, who were still in the blazing center of Egghead. Brogy leaned forward, noting that those names brought back memories, and agreed enthusiastically. Dory wondered if Vegapunk was the person that the scholar had mentioned. He ordered their crew to carry Bonnie and the others to their ship, while he and Brogy went ahead to deal with the worsening fire. Frankie wondered if they were the masters Usopp often spoke about. Meanwhile, a Vice Admiral Urban noticed that Tosa's communication had suddenly stopped. Vice Admiral Pomsky wondered if Bonnie's group had countered Tosa's attack or if the giants were responsible. He then announced that he was heading to the island. Bluegrass, controlling sea beast weapons, told Dahl to hop on, explaining that they would attack from the sea. Dahl pointed out that the ship on the northeast shore was definitely from Elbaf. Bluegrass remarked that their luck kept shifting, noting that giants were no small threat, and asked Dahl if she had ever fought one. Dahl responded that her commanding officer from 20 years ago was a giant. Bluegrass reacted with surprise, saying she must be referring to Saul, who was a tough cookie. A giant warrior asked Frankie's group where the others were. Frankie replied that they were in the lab above the clouds. The giant asked if they were on a sky island. Frankie clarified that it wasn't exactly a sky island. The scene shifted to the center of the island. Saturn approached as Luffy asked the severely injured Vegapunk if he could move, wondering how they could save him. Vegapunk replied that moving him would cause death from internal hemorrhaging. Saturn returned to face them in a new form. He looked very different from before, larger in size with murderous eyes, and he remained completely silent. Sanji carefully analyzed Saturn's new form, while Luffy reminded Vegapunk that they had promised to get him off the island. Vegapunk admitted that he did ask them for that, but insisted he had made his own bed, and there were things on the island he must protect. He explained that he had hoped Bonnie's command override would remain a secret until she was a little older. Since she would now be a target for the rest of her life, Vegapunk urged Luffy to take care of her. Sanji commented on Saturn's new form, noting that he no longer appeared human, with a strange look in his eyes and a body seemingly coated in venom. Sanji carried the injured Vegapunk and warned Luffy about an incoming attack. Saturn then began striking with his poisonous legs that looked like tentacles. While joking around, Luffy dodged all of the attacks and instructed Sanji to get Vegapunk out of there. He told Sanji not to stop, even if Vegapunk complained about the pain. Crying out in pain, Vegapunk shouted at Sanji to stop and insisted that it was fine to just leave him there. But Sanji told him to calm down, assuring him that they would figure something out. However, Kizaru intervened with a light-speed kick, sending Sanji flying. He then formed a light sword and stabbed Vegapunk straight through the chest. Blood sprayed as Vegapunk slumped forward, while Kizaru only gave a brief glance back. Sanji quickly recovered, scooped Vegapunk up again, and apologized to him. Luffy then ordered Sanji to get moving, saying they needed to head to the back entrance. As Kizaru attempted another attack, Luffy sprang into action, enlarging to giant size in Gear 5. He grabbed Kizaru in his right hand and Saturn's face in his left, telling them there was no way he would let them escape. Kizaru winced in pain as blood dripped from his mouth, struggling against Luffy's crushing grip. Meanwhile, Sanji, carrying the wounded Vegapunk, demanded that he not die. He then noticed Vegapunk's sudden smile, even though he had taken a fatal wound. Suddenly, in the lab, a pre-recorded message activated, and Denden Musha's broadcasted across the globe. Vegapunk's voice announced that he was Dr. Vegapunk, the world's greatest and most humble scientific genius. He warned that his message would shock everyone but urged them to listen, as he was about to reveal the truth about their world. The recording had been made by Vegapunk in the past. Shaka voiced his concerns to Stella, questioning whether it was wise, noting that even if Vegapunk had set the broadcast to start automatically, there was a chance it might not work. Vegapunk asked Shaka what he meant. Shaka explained that they were relying too heavily on people being ready to receive and relay the information. Vegapunk noted that Shaka knew how news dissemination worked, with agencies often spreading information worldwide by the next day. Shaka wondered if someone might intercept or censor their message. Stella agreed and asked Shaka if he had any suggestions. Meanwhile, on the shore, a Marine wondered what was happening and where the broadcast was coming from. They quickly realized it was coming from every ship's Denden Mushi and were ordered to cut the connection immediately. Shaka suggested to Vegapunk that they could use the Navy's communication network to force a worldwide broadcast with maximum signal strength. Despite the Marines' efforts to stop it, they couldn't sever the connection. The scene shifted to Luffy, who was still holding Kizaru and Saturn like toys. He turned his attention to Vegapunk's recorded message. Vegapunk explained to Shaka that anyone with a Denden Mushi could hear the initial voice message, but setting up the visual Denden Mushis would take time and vary by location. Shaka proposed giving everyone a 1-hour interval to prepare. Saturn, overhearing, wondered what Vegapunk planned to say. Usopp and Nami's group, also listening to the broadcast, were confused about Vegapunk's intentions. Vegapunk told Shaka that an hour was too long, asking if he realized what could happen in that time. The scene cut to Marines and Giants clashing as Vegapunk warned Shaka that some people would be unhappy with the broadcast and might find a way to stop it before it finished. Shaka agreed and suggested shortening the preparation interval to 10 minutes. Sanji held Vegapunk's wounded and unconscious body in his arms, desperately trying to wake him up. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to the Holy Land, where the celestial dragons were shouting, demanding to know what the transmission was and what it meant. Saint Saturn telepathically contacted the other 4 elders, who asked if he had dealt with Vegapunk. Saturn confirmed that Kizaru had delivered a fatal blow, and he had seen it himself. Saint Nusjuro wondered if Vegapunk had set up a dead man's switch to trigger the message upon his death. Saint Jupiter said it seemed likely and noted they had no idea what Vegapunk would reveal. Saint Warkari remarked that if they could pinpoint the broadcast source, they might stop it. Jupiter suggested the Labo phase on Egghead as the likely origin, but it was protected by Vegapunk's barrier. Back at Egghead, Shaka asked Vegapunk what they should do for the remaining 9.5 minutes. Vegapunk suggested they could keep inventing, as there was much to do. Shaka, however, proposed they get some coffee instead. In Dressrosa, civilians stressed the importance of the message, noting that if Dr. Vegapunk was addressing the world, it must be significant. They quickly prepared the visual Denden Mushi. Rebecca, Leo, and Kairos were also watching the broadcast. Leo wondered what was happening with the wise man Luffy had supposedly kidnapped. Rebecca, meanwhile, couldn't believe that they were trusting yet another false report about Luffy. At this point in the video, Vegapunk revealed that he had also calculated the probability of any interference occurring. In Luffy's hometown, Fuchsia Village, some elderly residents were discussing the situation. One of them wondered what it was all about, thinking it would just be more news bad-mouthing Luffy. Another remarked that it would have been better if they had a visual Denden Mushi. The mayor responded, asking who would pay for that, noting that raising one wouldn't be free, and asked if just having audio wasn't enough. In Water 7, Iceberg was woken up and immediately sensed trouble. He told his secretary, Alice, to prepare to screen the message. She informed him it was already playing in the next room, with screens being set up at each dock. Despite it being nighttime, a summons had been issued for all citizens to be at a screen within 10 minutes. She asked Iceberg if there was anything else he needed. At the World Economic Journal, Morgans was losing his mind as the feed was being relayed through Navy frequencies, even though it was unencrypted. Vivi was desperate to know where Luffy and the others were. Morgans told her not to be foolish and pointed out the clock in the background of the broadcast. He noted it didn't match Egghead's current time, meaning the message was pre-recorded. He added that the Buster call must have already turned the island into a sea of flames by now. On various islands, people reacted to the broadcast. In West Blue, some were amazed to see Dr. Vegapunk in person, having heard his mind was extraordinary but surprised by the apple-like cut on his head. In North Blue, residents braved the cold to hear the man who lit up the world. In South Blue, people speculated about what Vegapunk wanted to share, wondering if it was the invention of the century. At the Kamabaka Queendom, the Revolutionary Army watched the broadcast. In the video, Vegapunk mentioned it would take 10 minutes to brew coffee so he wouldn't get a sip. They realized the chance of interference during this time was very low. Ivankov wondered what Vegapunk was up to now, but more importantly, he questioned whether Vegapunk had lost his head. Koala was surprised to finally see the genius everyone talked about. Morley admired Vegapunk's boldness for doing this during a crisis. Sabo kept his thoughts to himself. Monkey D. Dragon watched closely, recalling Shaka's warning that he would die soon. Back on Egghead Island, Luffy was fired up, noting that his punches didn't harm Kizaru or Saturn. Both unleashed attacks simultaneously, Saturn with his venomous leg and Kizaru with laser beams from his eyes. But Luffy dodged instantly. His grip never loosened, determined to keep them from escaping until his friends were safe. Luffy swung them back and unleashed a powerful dawn attack, clapping them together in his giant hands with incredible force. When he released them, the two powerhouses were flattened like tin foil, the stars circling their heads. Luffy then twirled them on his fingers like pizza dough. Realizing they kept recovering, Luffy decided to throw them away for good. A Marine with binoculars caught a glimpse of this chaos. Kizaru crashed into a Navy battleship, causing a massive explosion. Luffy was laughing at this, but suddenly, tinfoil Saturn changed its trajectory and came back like a returning frisbee. The Emperor was extremely frustrated at this point, wondering what it would take to keep Saturn down. Marines asked Admiral Kizaru if he was all right, but he remained unresponsive, covering his eyes while lying on the ship. Saturn heard from the other elders that time was running out and they couldn't let Vegapunk speak freely. At that moment, the giant warrior pirate crew reached their ship with Bonnie, Frankie, and Atlas. Saturn spoke for the first time in his new form, declaring he would perform a summoning. Instantly, black lightning struck the island 4 times in rapid succession. The surrounding Marines were stunned as 4 summoning circles appeared near St. Saturn. Luffy's eyes popped out in shock, wondering what was happening. Sanji, still running with Dr. Vegapunk in his arms, looked back in horror, realizing it was like when Saturn first arrived. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this.